Federal government repositions cassava production to enhance food security.
House of Representatives calls for protection of Nigerians.
Federal government to commercialize research from Nigeria's tertiary institutions.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall examine diagnosis and treatment of typhoid fever.
Typhoid fever, also called enteric fever, is caused by Salmonella bacteria disease, which is spread through contaminated food, water, or close contact.
Indeed, typhoid fever is a life-threatening illness that causes a high fever, flu-like symptoms, diarrhea, skin rash, and it can spread throughout the body, affecting many organs if prompt treatment is not administered.
Yeah, you're right, Yenre. The symptoms often appear within a week or two of being infected. And the symptoms include persistent increase in body temperatures, sweating, fatigue, cough, body pain, and headache.
In addition, typhoid fever primarily affects the small intestines and can spread to other organs, including the liver, spleen, and gallbladder. In severe cases, it can lead to intestinal bleeding or perforation.
So typhoid fever prevention include washing hands thoroughly before initiating cooking or eating, timely vaccination, and good hand washing hygiene practice in typhoid infected persons.
Treatment of typhoid fever consists of fluids and antibiotics, intravenous therapy, and oral rehydration therapy, while the most effective treatment in Nigeria is antibiotic therapy.
Absolutely. The specific antibiotic used may vary depending on factors like antibiotic resistance patterns in the region and individual patient factors rather. However, it is crucial to consult with healthcare professionals for diagnosis and appropriate treatment, as self-medication can be dangerous. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Ademola Adeoye.
We must add that we are not medical professionals, and that's why we would be having those who should know, those who are trained, to talk to us about typhoid fever on the program to, of course, dissect all the issues and get you to understand how you can deal with it. Amien Ray John, thank you for joining us this Friday morning, the last for the week. We're reaching you live from Abuja on the network service of the NTA. Shortly, we'll join Musa Abubakar for the highlights of the morning news, and of course, much later, newspaper review will be on. But for now, Musa, feed us. Good morning to you.
Good morning to the both of you. Here's the news. Vice President Kashim Shettima says the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has repositioned cassava production to ensure the crop becomes a key driver of industrial development and import substitution in Nigeria. At a ceremony in Abuja to mark the 2025 World Cassava Day, the Vice President noted that cassava, which for long symbolized food security for the vulnerable, can also signify prosperity for the ambitious.
For the vulnerable. It is also time that it symbolizes prosperity for the ambitious. Let this day mark the beginning of a new era where cassava is not merely grown, but transformed.
The federal government has inaugurated the board of directors of the National Credit Guarantee Company Limited, charging members to deepen financial inclusion and stimulate Nigeria's grassroots economy. Vice President Kashim Shettima at the inauguration ceremony held at the Presidential Villa says the establishment of NCGC represents the government's commitment to bridging the financing gap that has long plagued MSMEs across the country.
It is the assurance that when a farmer in Ibadan needs a loan to expand her cocoa palm. When a tech startup in Abuja needs working capital to scale, when a leather artisan in Kano seeks to mechanize his craft, and when a trader in Onitsha needs capital to expand, the system will no longer pay them.
Speedy implementation of the national policy on marine and blue economy is a catalyst Nigeria needs to unlock the potential of the maritime ecosystem to be in a vantage position among the community of nations. Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Boyega Oyetola, at a one-day stakeholders engagement with industry players, says with the legislative framework now ready, it is time to take action.
Through the contracts for the reconstruction of the Apapa and Tinkan ports, procurement is ongoing for the eastern ports.
Now, the House of Representatives has called for urgent military intervention to secure lives and property of Nigerians subjected to terrorist attacks in Adamawa and Zamfara states. This resolution was sequel to motions of urgent national importance drawing attention to banditry and violent attacks on innocent citizens in the two states.
Pambula in Madagali area were attacked by unknown gunmen, resulting in gruesome killing of at least 5 people and kidnapping of an unknown number of people that went to their farm and couldn't come back home.
I want to add that we urge all security agencies to adopt, adapt, and deploy technology as a way of gathering intelligence.
Motorists plying Abuja-Kaduna-Kano highway will soon have a cause to smile, barely a month after taking over the construction of the dual carriageway by a new contractor with quality and durability assured. The assurance came when the Joint Committee paid an unscheduled visit to the project.
That we are getting it right now under President Tinubu. This road, if constructed, successive governments will not come again to do. It is on record that asphalt roads normally fail within 10 to 20 years.
For decades, brilliant Nigerian researchers in universities and polytechnics have poured their hearts into innovations, some developing life-saving drugs, others created energy solutions or agricultural breakthroughs. But for many, those ideas never made it beyond the lab. Now that's about to change as federal government inaugurates a high-powered ministerial committee to commercialize research coming out of Nigeria's tertiary institutions.
Academia and industry has limited our country's ability to reap the enormous benefits of the various research outcomes in this country.
Those are the news highlights. Good Morning Nigeria continues after the break.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Ìjọba fún wa ní 75,000. NIN ni mí àti káàdì ìgbà tí lọ gbà. Nígbà tí mo sì gbà, mo fi ṣe nǹkan tó dáa, mo ra oògùn nínú rẹ̀. Mo ra oúnjẹ tí màá jẹ nínú rẹ̀. Mo sì wọkọ̀ mi náà ń bẹ. A sì fi yòókù ṣe ọrọ̀ ajé pé ká tó máa rí gbé bá. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba wa òkè.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring an impeccable personality with purposeful leadership.
Abba Abubakar Aliu, MD, CEO of Rural Electrification Agency, takes us through the gamut of activities and mandates of Rural Electrification Agency, as well as its achievements and dreams.
I really want to see that I leave a lasting legacy that can be spoken of in a very long period of time.
Welcome to a world of fun and excitement as we also present an assemblage of professionals in the media space. Some compelling NTA programs, current trends in the fashion world, ICT, sports, entertainment, and lots more.
Meet Professor Charles Anosike, the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, as he shares his vision in repositioning NIMET as a key player in Nigeria's climate strategy.
Get a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
The Apostolic Church Nigeria, Abuja FCT area, Lorna Territory, under the chairmanship of Pastor Dr. S.G.O. Uye, JP, Vice President TACN and Lorna Territory Chairman, and Pastor J.O.A. Fadigbe, Abuja FCT Area Superintendent and Metropolitan Area Leader and Convener, cordially invites the general public to the 26th Abuja FCT Annual Convention with the theme, They Overcome Him by the Blood of the Lamb and by Their Testimony. Revelations 12, verse 11. Date, Friday 4th to Sunday 6th July 2025. Time, 3 p.m. on Friday and 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Venue, Plot 494, Durumi District, Area 1, Gerki, Abuja. Announcer, Elder M.A. Akinsami. Secretary, Convention Planning Committee, and Pastor I.B. Olaniawo, Convention Committee Chairman.
The Council of Our Fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Anything in front of the camera, you're there. I'm hosting a TV show. I could take your job.
Like yeah.
Just saying.
You see, that your kneecap. Outside, I will finish and you won't stand for you.
By night, I do brand influencing. So if you need a face for your brand.
Wait, which brand are you influencing in the night?
We'll get back to it.
Okay. Powerhouse family. Just Friends family. It's time for us to play. Name a place a group of girlfriends might go for a fun night out. Clap! Yep. Survey says.
loves food, but she does not eat much.
I know that feeling. Your stomach says,
no.
Name something a woman might likely need when she's acting moody.
Money.
Money!
Food. Attention. Love making.
You look like you are speaking from experience. Survey says...
It's now time for newspaper review.
Yeah, our newspaper reviewer, Chukudi Okoli Ugbaja, is here. Chooks, thank God it's Friday.
It is Friday, and I'm happy it's Friday. I'm not creaking in the wrong places, but still I would like to rest a little. Hello, dear. How are you doing?
Good to see you, Chukudi.
Mrs. John, you're a great human being.
You too. Always
Thank you so
delighted
much.
to have you here.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's look at what the papers have this morning. We'll begin with the leadership. That has just two headlines because of an advertorial right here on the front page. You just look above the masthead and you find Nigerian players, others won Peter Rufai, Diego Jota. That's on page 30. And on page 4, Wike to ADC coalition. Failed politicians can't save Nigeria. And, okay, we have in a tiny strip right here, NNPC record 6 trillion naira oil revenue in May. Atiku Obi mark adopt ADC. All right, so that's it from the leadership. Let's see what the People's Daily is offering this morning. The People's Daily leads with troops kill scores of terrorists, arrest 1,991 as 682 surrender. Above that lead story, we have cassava now key driver of Nigeria's industrial development. That's according to the Vice President. Beside that story, reps take bold step to combat malnutrition, food insecurity. All right, let's look below the picture story. We have some other headlines here. And, of course, I'll just quickly take a look at them. This one says reps to provide legal framework for free internet access in public place. Nice. Alleged 50 billion naira defamation. Court admits evidence against Facebook user defaming Governor Oti. Jigawa government suspends 4 education secretaries for aiding trans teachers. And finally, on the front page of the People's Daily, we have price of 5 kg cooking gas stands at 7,885 naira 60 kobo in May, according to NBS. All right.
Okay, let me start with the Business NG newspaper. Just above that nameplate, we have Amechi dares Wike to popularity test, says it doesn't respect me. Details of that story can be found on page 4. Obi slams federal government over school strike, says infrastructure can't replace education. Details of that story, it's on page 11. Then we have Benue crisis draws global attention, says UN-US delegation. Then fix FX now or face currency chaos. IMF warns Nigeria. And from there we move on to Daily Trust. Daily Trust newspaper. On Daily Trust newspaper, just below that nameplate, we have INEC receives 12 additional applications for party registration. Details of that story, it's on page 13. Ex-Super Eagles goalkeeper Peter Rufai dies at 61. Details on page 39. Coalition members move to exit old parties. Then we have Remi Tinubu returns to Plateau, donates 1 billion naira to victims of attacks. Details of that story can be found on page 6. 2,000 hectares, my children have right to own land. Wike and Senator's aide resigns over 20,000 naira
salary. And the front page picture is that of the Vice President Kashim Shettima with Kano State Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf and others during the visit of the Vice President paying condolence visits to Dantata family house in Kano yesterday. Chooks?
You don't get exiled from government patronage because your father is the president. Wike is right when he says, my children have a right to own land. What we will examine as journalists in the days ahead is
how
whether the process of acquisition, if really they have acquired land, because it has not said, yes, they own the land. We just theoretically said, my children have a right to own land, is whether favoritism crept into the process. In that case, we'll say, oh no, minister. But I like him saying, my children have a right to own land. I've always made that argument. Why would Buhari's son not do a contract? Because his father is president? You know, Africa has a way of thinking. I keep talking about Africa. Now, quickly, former Super Eagles goalkeeper Peter Rufai dies at 61. First of all, I want to thank Ernest Okonkwo of blessed memory for giving him his right name. He was Peter Rock Rufai. And the man solidly.
Dodo Mayana.
Old school is the best school them all. Nere doesn't know what you're talking about.
Who
but
said
it's okay.
So?
We'll get there.
Who said so?
In the sports world, it's not just our Rufai that died. May his soul rest in peace. Diogo Jota, who really is my favorite in Liverpool, not Salah. What did I give De Bruyne? Pitch mechanic. Apart from De Bruyne, Diogo Jota was my next pitch mechanic. What he did with the ball was outstanding. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
Amen.
He couldn't recognize his Lamborghini after that accident. His brother died as well.
Yeah, both of them.
And he just got wedded.
Is who?
Diogo, right? Jota,
Diogo
right?
wedded just a few months ago. Yeah, Ronaldo captured it all. It doesn't make sense. We were in the national team. That's talking about.
Just yesterday.
He just wedded. That's how Ronaldo ended it. He was confused. He couldn't believe it. There are certain things that happen and you say, God, why now? And he smiles at you because only he fathoms what is unfathomable to you. May their souls rest in perfect peace.
Amen.
As we talk about accidents, maybe we should mention the accident that happened on the Karo Expressway right here in Abuja yesterday.
Another one?
Yes.
Yesterday?
Yes, I saw it on my way to work this morning, and someone sent me the video.
What time?
In the evening, at about, I think, rush hour.
Another one?
Yes, at about...
3 days ago, as I was driving through that rain that looked as if it would never stop, 2 women's bodies were still on the road. I didn't say dead bodies, but it was their bodies I saw there. The ambulance had already taken some. I wasn't there, but I can tell you 50% that what's likely to have happened was that somebody was speeding too much on slippery road.
And ran into them.
And when the time to brake came, the vehicle went the other way. Before that, just close to what we call Sheraton, they have a new name now, 2 jeeps had run off the road, still about slippery road. What is it in our skull that misleads us? Is it mud water? Is it really brains?
No, but this car accident was also a trailer, right?
Yeah.
It's an articulated vehicle.
No, you just gave me opportunity to talk about, I'm not judging that one. I'm talking about the one I saw. What was I leading to? 3/4 of accidents on Nigerian roads are preventable. It's not human error. It's deliberate mischief sometimes. It's unfortunate.
Very
I hope
unfortunate.
not too many people died in that one. You're not a doctor.
I can't give you any figures.
You couldn't tell.
Yeah, so.
It's okay. We have to become more civilized in our application to the environment. It is very important.
It is.
Many of our headaches are preventable if only we pause and think. It's very important. Article B, Mark adopt ADC. I like that name, Mark. It's one of the people I admire. What was it, Occupy Nigeria? Was it 2012 or something? I can't remember correctly now. Mark came down from the plane at the airport. Good luck, Jonathan's government was practically shaken. What do we do about this fuel subsidy removal thing? The opposition is saying this, saying that. You know what Mark said? Everything will be over in 48 hours. Everything got calmed in 12 hours. He sounded statesman-like. I'm in a search for good men in the world. That's all I know about Mark, and it gave me a good impression, you know. I pray he still has it. Then we pray for them to succeed in whatever they are doing, because we want to bust
Well, he's not the
opposition.
only one who has moved, so it's not about one person. It's about,
I'm just interested in multi-party democracy. If they handle their affairs well, they're able to do it. Good luck to them. If they don't, I will say, what a shame. That's it. It's as simple as that. Neutrality would always guide us.
Politicians.
Politicians.
Mm.
He is a man. Juma is not in the studio today. Politicians, you never can tell what they are up to at any point in time. Yes. Remi Tinubu returns to Plateau. You forgot to say that. Remember, she has become part of my list. It's not just the NDLEA man, Babagana, Borno State Governor. Remi Tinubu, you look at her, you say it is good to be brought up well by your parents.
True.
Let me
Very
stop
true.
there so that sycophants, it doesn't come into...
I also think that she's a great example for a lot of women in Nigeria. Despite being the wife of the president, the way she speaks, the way she carries
Forget
herself,
it.
the way she relates with people, irrespective of
Thank
status or tribe, religion.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, it's just out of this
I'm not likely
world.
to meet her, and I don't know, but may God bless her. It's as simple as that.
You know, I was thinking...
And when I do that,
She conducts
I
herself
am
well.
recommending her to Nigerian people. Done too much. Who do you think you are? When there was a quarrel in the Senate, the way she conducted herself in the face of provocation. I was just watching this woman. Stella Obasanjo too. She had that courage. You know, let them. I wish Remi Tinubu could stride into classrooms occasionally and talk to children. If he says B, if she says
No,
B,
she does that with all these.
She does?
with all workshops that she has for
children.
for girls, child and all that. So I think she does that.
Look, may God bless that woman.
Anyway, Senator's aide resigns over 20,000 salary.
20,000
That's
salary.
below minimum wage.
That does not pay transport. That does not handle
No, but the
transportation.
senator has violated the law.
And later, we'll talk about, I'm not a good lawyer when it comes, I wish Kingsley Osadolo were still there. He will talk about that. But let me talk about what is functional to our existence. The money not go reach and pay transport, go work. You see, when we come here and sound elitist, we lose touch with the rabble, the ordinary people. You understand? Make them give them money, we go reach and pay transport. Not to talk of rent. Not to talk, no.
Food.
I don't know.
That's man's inhumanity to man.
I didn't want to drop that because I wanted to get the facts first. Otherwise, it was on my lips. I'm not pretending.
And
It
then
was
when
there.
such a...
Anyway, Chooks,
Yes,
the
my
producer has marked you for exit.
She doesn't like me. She doesn't like me.
The producer has marked you for exit.
Not so many people like me.
All right,
Rest
thank
assured
you.
I
God
like
bless
you.
you.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
So we'll take a break now.
Bless NTA.
The conversation will kickstart after the break. Stay with us.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, We rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree. We sway in colors, we turn dark into light. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
At NTA Television College Jos, you will dive into exhilarating hands that will fuel your passion in education and propel your career to new heights. We don't just teach, we craft the next generation of media leaders. Explore our diverse offering, understanding the personnel matters and issues in the public service, basic development communication, financial reporting under IPSAS, and interpretation of public sector accounting standard IPSAS, audit, internal check and control management, video camera maintenance, new technologies, optics, fiber, IP technologies, automation, storage management, and wireless technology. Challenges and opportunities in the secretarial profession in the digital age. Digital marketing, basic drama, online reporting, understanding the provisions of the revised public service, audio engineering operations and maintenance, camera operations, and intermediate drama. Mark your calendar. The second quarter of 2025 is your launch pad. This is your moment to seize the future. Announcer management.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC. Office of the National Security Advisor.
Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we bring in our guests for our conversation, which is on diagnosis and treatment of typhoid fever, let's take this background report put together by Ibrahim Belu Gunda.
Nigeria is a typhoid endemic country, and the global burden of disease in 2021 study estimated that Nigeria experienced at least 238,887 typhoid cases, 103 cases per 100,000 individuals, with 4,151 typhoid deaths. While typhoid is rarely fatal, the recovery is long and difficult. The disease steals time, money and productivity from those infected and their families. Typhoid fever remains a significant health concern in Nigeria due to its potential for severe illness and life-threatening complications, and is primarily spread through contaminated food and water, with data showing an increase in drug resistance. World Health Organization recommended for routine immunization as part of a cost-effective integrated approach to typhoid prevention and control, alongside safe water, sanitation and hygiene interventions. Typhoid fever, a serious infection, is diagnosed primarily through blood, stool or urine cultures, with treatment involving a course of antibiotics, and it's crucial to complete the prescribed course to prevent recurrence and complications. Why is Nigeria highly burdened by typhoid fever? How will stakeholders ensure constant diagnosis and treatment of typhoid fever? And what is the impact of non-diagnosis and treatment of typhoid fever? These and more will be some of the questions our guests will be finding answers to on the program.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for those questions. And I know for sure that our guests are well catered for the response to some of those questions. Now, we have in our guests in our studio already seated for this program this morning some of our guests. Let me just start by introducing Dr. Isaac Akuma Egboja. He's the public health specialist. Dr. Egboja, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Also here is Dr. Kashmai Ifeanyi. Is the 15th National President, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria. Is also a fellow West Africa Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science and infectious disease expert. Dr. Ifeanyi, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning, yes.
All right.
All right, also joining us for the conversation via Zoom from Lagos is Dr. Ganiu Jamiu, the Chief Consultant Epidemiologist, Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. Many thanks for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
All right, so let's just kickstart our conversation this morning with Dr. Egboja. You know, typhoid fever is something that is very, very common in this part of the world, especially in Nigeria. Everybody that has a little bit of symptoms, what do you have? I have typhoid. They have not even done any test or gone for any diagnostics, but they just assume that they are having fever or typhoid fever. So what are the common symptoms of this typhoid fever, and how do we distinguish, when you say this one has typhoid fever, this one doesn't have typhoid fever, what exactly is happening?
Okay, let me start by saying that typhoid fever is caused by a bacteria known as Salmonella, and a particular species of Salmonella known as Salmonella typhi. It is from that name that we have typhoid fever. It is an infection that leads to very high fever that could also lead to chills, muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, and in very extreme cases, it could lead to mental confusion, where a person becomes confused, delirious, and can even become psychotic. In other words, can be a little mad and uncontrolled.
Is there anything like little madness?
Yes. That's not very common, but it does happen. And coming to your question, yes, many of us are alarmed by the fact that everybody these days seems to have typhoid and malaria. As a matter of fact, when you send a patient to go and do a blood test for malaria, suspected case of malaria, when the result comes out, it is typhoid and malaria. I'm going to leave that aspect to Dr. Ifeanyi to explain. Let me handle the purely medical aspect. Normally, when it starts, the fever is low. The temperature is not very high. But the temperature will be increasing gradually. And it becomes very intense and very severe to a point where the body temperature could reach 40 degrees centigrade or 102, 103, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very high. And one of the reasons why patients become little mad or psychotic or confused or delirious is because of that high temperature, which the brain cannot handle.
Okay.
That's an optimal temperature of the body generally. And the brain in particular is very sensitive, very, very. So when the temperature is higher than normal, the brain begins to respond. And when it becomes so high that the brain cannot function properly, the person loses control and becomes confused, delirious, and could be psychotic. Okay, let me come back again to the symptoms that we are talking about. During the first few days, like I said before, the patient may not have that high fever. The fever may be small, and it will be increasing. Now, the very important part of the question that you asked is the differentiation between the fevers of malaria and that of typhoid.
Yes.
I need to explain this. Okay, in the case of malaria, especially in our own environment here, the parasite that is common in our environment here is Plasmodium falciparum. How does it reproduce? How does it cause fever? Normally, every 24 hours, the eggs of this particular parasite are released into the bloodstream, and the person will now develop fever. Or the symptoms and signs of malaria will be increased at that time. Fever, sweating, malaise, weakness,
Headache.
and so on, headache, and so on. I forgot to mention headache for the typhoid too, but let me finish this. So if you typically here have malaria, you would observe that if it is mornings that your fever or headache comes, after about afternoon you feel well. Throughout the evening you feel well. But when the next morning comes, your fever comes back again. However, there are also some other people.
Why that?
I'm coming. That's what I just explained. That's the time when the parasite releases its eggs into the bloodstream. Okay. Now, there are other people, during the morning time, they are fine. As the afternoon comes, they become sick gradually. And then they start sweating, they have fever, they have headache. And after a while, they become a little well again until the next 24 hours. So there's a cycle of every 24 hours of this spiked fever and symptoms of malaria that is caused by Plasmodium falciparum. That is not the case of typhoid fever. Typhoid fever is relentless, it's continuous, it's consistent. That's the difference. But let me also come to explain something. Like I said before, I'm going to leave the test and the laboratory part for Dr. Ifeanyi, but the assumption or the perception that every fever
is
typhoid is wrong, very wrong. It is not true. As a matter of fact, you would not know that it is typhoid until a test is done. It is only through laboratory tests that you can confirm. And when somebody goes to the lab, has a little prick of the blood, And then in a few minutes, they tell the person, you have typhoid and malaria. It's not possible. It is possible that it is malaria, but it is not confirmed test that it is typhoid at all. You have to do more tests, which I said I will leave to a doctor to explain, to confirm that it is typhoid.
Okay.
Okay. One. Two, for the treatment for malaria is totally different from the treatment for typhoid. And unfortunately, when somebody is suspected to have typhoid, they start them, many people start them with both malaria treatment and typhoid treatment, which shouldn't be.
Okay.
Treatment should be initiated for malaria, and there should be a delay, a wait, for the confirmation of typhoid before you institute treatment for typhoid. Because it is antibiotic that you're going to use, and somebody who uses antibiotic, if you continue to use antibiotic indiscriminately, you would cause resistance. So when you really need that antibiotic for the real typhoid or for something else, it will no more work.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. Egbuja. You have so much to tell us, but of course, in the course of the program, we would get some more perspectives from you as regards typhoid fever. Now time to get to Dr. Ifeanyi. Accusing fingers has been pointed at the lab scientist as to why we have so many people who have typhoid fever. So maybe I should ask you, is it a wrong diagnosis that is making us feel that a lot of Nigerians come down with typhoid fever, or is it that we have, we are involved in habits or our environment that is leading to the increase in the number of patients with typhoid fever?
All right, I would start with your intro, the visuals that we watched at the beginning. That was quite apt. And I want to say that going back to that visual, you had clearly that typhoid fever, of course, like Doctor said, caused by bacteria Salmonella enteritica serover typhi. It's a food and waterborne disease. Ingestion of contaminated food and water. And if there's anything commonplace in Nigeria, it is the consumption of contaminated water and food. Commonplace. And if you go further in the epidemiology of the disease in country, you will find out that typhoid fever is a lot more preponderant in major cities with slums like Lagos, Kano, Abuja, Port Harcourt. This is the rife place for ingestion of contaminated food. Of course, it happens in the hinterland and in the rural places where we have poor sanitation and hygiene. And so if we do not speak to these key factors, we will never get over with typhoid in Nigeria. Now, it's endemic in Nigeria, correct? But these are the factors that fuel the endemicity. What do we do? What is our food safety protocols? What are they? Now, in our food processing and production, do we bother about hazard analysis and critical point control? We do not. We eat anything we find. But I will speak to the issue of diagnosis, so I don't delay. Now, you used the right word, wrong diagnosis. Over-reporting of typhoid fever. Who is responsible? Who are the culprits? Today in Nigeria, as you walk the street, you see a pharmacy. You can walk in there, they tell you they do tests, and they will do typhoid for you. As you walk the lungu, permit my word, the lungu, you will see a patent medicine shop. A half-literate person would also take your samples that he is doing typhoid test for you. As you go further from the lungu into the crannies of the slum and other places, even on that tree, you can find somebody holding himself out to the public that he is able to perform testing, particularly for typhoid. And so we have to also speak to the issue of the meddlesomeness, the intrusion of quacks and charlatans. Today in Nigeria, the average graduate of a biological science course, microbiology, biochemistry, physiology, zoology, science laboratory technology, would want to and are attempting by all means to legitimize themselves as people who will provide healthcare services with respect to medical laboratory services. When you have all these factors come together, you will now see why for every test you have, they will tell you malaria, typhoid. Because tests done, not rightly done, not even the correct specimen were taken, not done by the right personnel. So the issue continues. If we even go further, the diagnosis of typhoid is very costly. Typhoid fever have 4 stages. Like he started, low-grade fever, not pronounced. That's the first stage. And that will happen from the 3 days of you becoming exposed to the bacteria to as much as 60 days. First phase, low grade. Second phase, the fever becomes very pronounced, like he said. And the fever becomes pronounced with gastrointestinal issues beginning to show up. So you could have cramp, you could have abdominal discomfort. For some people, you can have diarrhea. So that is second stage. Now, the third stage is very difficult. The third stage is an advanced form of the second stage, where you can have intestinal bleeding and ultimately intestinal perforations. The first stage is either a recovery phase or a complication phase that can lead to the delirium he talked about earlier on, or even ultimately death, if not treated and not properly treated. So for these 4 stages of typhoid, within the first 1 week of ingestion and exposure to the bacteria, if you want to test the gold standard for the diagnosis of typhoid within the first 7 days is blood culture. If you go to any hospital laboratory, what it sought, and you want to do a blood culture, you will not be parting today with less than 30,000 or 40,000 naira or more, depending on the hospital or laboratory. And so, after the first 1 week, when, of course, you now have the gastrointestinal involvement, for which reason it is also called gastroenteritis, all right, or enteric fever. And so at that point is when you may be able to recover the organism when they are becoming shedded in the patient's stool. And when you talk about stool, you will be talking about stool culture a lot more. Urine, the ability to recover salmonella from urine is far removed, very far removed. So recovering it from stool would mean that you must have a robust laboratory infrastructure, a well-resourced laboratory. So the diagnosis of typhoid...
So do we have well-resourced laboratory all over the country?
You can't have a well-resourced laboratory in a pharmacy in the boulevard. You can't have a well-resourced laboratory in the patent shop at the Lungu. You can't have under the tree. So the point is, do we have a well-resourced lab? So Nigeria comes under the category of countries that are called resource limited. Of course, we have resource limitation in country, but the point is not all made. So that is first week, second week. Now, you can go as far as even doing a bone marrow investigation, but that's when at the point of the complication, and must not be done by the roadside. Must be done in a full-fledged hospital with capacities for that. Capacities in terms of infrastructure, resources, which includes material and human resources. So the challenge we have with typhoid fever in Nigeria, and why it appears is the burst illness. Oh, every person has typhoid. That's not entirely correct, because we are not doing the right thing. And why are we not doing the right thing? I've mentioned charlatans, I've mentioned quacks. I want to speak to another challenge. We're talking about resources. Nigeria is apparently, I had said it here on this same seat, apparently the dumping ground for fake and substandard reagents, diagnostic kits, and testing material. Nigeria is second to Egypt and South Africa.
Who should regulate this?
I'm getting there. Nigeria is second to Egypt and South Africa in the importation of medical diagnostics in the African continent. Nigeria has a very robust law. Nigeria has in place a flagship agency of government, the Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria, who is saddled with the regulation of both those who provide the testing and where they do the testing, no matter where it is, doctor's office, laboratories adjoining hospital, standalone laboratories, wheresoever it is. The Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria is the flagship agency of government that regulates those who do this practice and the place of practice, and that regulate the processes that give you the certification and the accreditation to provide that kind of testing. It is also this same agency that is saddled with the responsibility of validating the materials we use for this test. Before I end, doctor talked about you walk into a place, they do a venipuncture, and they just do stuff, and they say you have typhoid. Now, the common thing we do, 80 to 95% of the time, is what is known as wider test. Wider test is a serological testing. It's a non-specific screening testing. And the challenge we have in Nigeria is that if you go to the Idumota market, or you move around the streets of Abuja, or you go to Kano, you will find over 1,000 brand of the wider test kit. I give you an example. There is one that is sold for about 35,000, 40,000, and there is one that is sold for 4,000 naira. And so these things come into this country, they don't go through any form of validation. People break the law willfully, because the Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria is also saddled with responsibility of validating test kits, test device, reagents before you deploy them.
Why do you think, Dr. Ifeanyi, that people patronize all these quack laboratories? Is it because of the, because you said it's quite expensive and they are not, easily seen? I mean, the standardized laboratory, where do you find them? Only government hospitals?
No.
Even in government hospitals, you hardly get...
well, we have standard labs, standard in quote, both in private and public, standard. Now, the point is this. I've mentioned charlatans. You won't find these charlatans in standard places, even though they're making efforts to find themselves there. I tell a story of a tertiary hospital in the FCT, where my life was put at stake because I blew the lead when an industrial chemist, someone who has a degree in industrial chemistry, was employed and deployed to the lab. So what kind of typhoid testing will that individual provide? That is the challenge we have. If we must deal with the issue of typhoid, there are factors we need to do. It's not only in the health industry we need to deal with. Let me come here now. I don't know whether you're familiar with the story they call the Typhoid Mary. You may not have heard about the Typhoid Mary. The Typhoid Mary is a common story we were told as students that happened, real life story in England. Mary, a chef, had typhoid. And for all that ate her meals, they came down with typhoid. For as long as she was cooking the meal and serving them. Now that brings me to another aspect why I talked about hazard analysis and critical point control. All the people who serve the food you will leave here to go and eat in Mama Put, who does food handlers evaluation for them? Any form of food handlers test?
Before we get to food handlers,
so
the duty of the Medical Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria, which we have mentioned, why are they failing to, do their job? Whose fault is it? Is it the council, or is it those who bring in these reagents and all of that into the country? I mean, where's the gap?
Two things are at stake here. It takes two to tango. The council has got the law and the mandate. And the
so why are they not doing their jobs?
I'm coming. The council has gone a step further to prepare itself for this assignment. The council has an in vitro diagnostic laboratory where this validation is done in Yaba, Lagos, fully equipped to the teeth. During the COVID pandemic, most of the COVID kits that came into this country, the council put its foot on the ground and insisted that they were evaluated. What we're asking that should be done is that for every test kit, every test reagent, every test equipment, laboratory equipment that comes into this country should be subjected to validation as provided in the law. Now you have these merchants. Sometimes I prefer to call them merchants of debt. You have these merchants who will bring these things here, and because they have the financial war chest, they resist the processes. They don't submit to the process. And you also have bureaucracies playing into it. I am a top government functionary who will approve the purchase of these things. And I bring my crony, my friend, whoever they are, who goes to China to bring this substandard thing, and it is dumped in the warehouse, circumventing the validation. So we must speak to these issues. The Nigerian health sector requires a reform, and that reform must conform to global standards.
We must conform to global standard. Oh, Dr. Ifeanyi, okay, we'll pause you there. Let's bring in our Zoom guest as well, Dr. Ganiyu Jamiu, to also, let's have your perspective on this prevalence of typhoid fever. Tell us what your experience is like.
Well, based on literature, there have not been a national prevalence, a survey to actually estimate the prevalence of typhoid fever in Nigeria. However, there have been a couple of studies, like the one in Ebonyi recently, 2023, fairly sector, which reported that an incidence of 100 in 100,000, with a prevalence of about 20 after a kind of following can you hear me? Can you hear me? Finding from a systematic review also revealed that the prevalence of typhoid fever from a study is around 20.9%. And I want to clear it to us that the environment, our personal hygiene, will enable us to continue to be exposed to typhoid fever. I want to also clear that it's not only Salmonella typhi, we also have other strains that we call them paratyphi, ABC. It's not only we have Salmonella typhi and we have Salmonella paratyphi, ABC. The only issue is that the paratyphi ABC present with milder form of the disease. But the one we are a bit worried about is the typhi. And as I've said, apart from personal hygiene, the sanitary condition of the environment, just like cholera, is an enabler for individuals to continue to be exposed to typhoid in Nigeria. For instance, other speakers have mentioned the issue of contaminated food and drinks. Those are another way. And also, we can also have it through, can you hear me, from hand to mouth. Some people will go to the toilet, they will not wash their hands, they will not use the same contaminated hand to eat and so on. So these are some of the other ways. And also, there are a lot of contamination of underground water through a kind of poor construction of septic tanks. So in most homes, especially in the urban areas, you find that some of the underground water sources have been contaminated. And that is why you see, apart from having typhoid, high prevalence of typhoid, we also have the same thing as cholera. So those are, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, so that is why we continue to have this issue of Salmonella typhi, that's typhoid, has to do with both personal and environmental hygiene. Then another thing I want to clear is that the pathophysiology of typhoid actually starts from the gastrointestinal tract. The organism actually infects the distal part of the small intestine, that is the ileum. That is when the whole inflammation, everything starts. From there on, it will move to the Peyer's patches. That is a towel that covers the small intestine. And from there onward, it moves to the other system through the thoracic duct. You may not understand that. And that may get to the liver, get to the spleen. That's why you see many of them complaining of abdominal discomfort, abdominal distension. So these are some of the ways. One thing, again, we need to understand about typhoid is the fact that studying the incubation period of 1 to 3 weeks is very critical. During the first week, what we have are just the normal flu-like symptom of fever, and the fever is usually step ladder. What do I mean by step ladder? It starts gradually, then gradually the temperature increases toward the day to about 39 to 40 degrees, which is associated with chills. Then we're having a frontal headache, having malaise, and so on. So those are the symptoms during the first week. Then from the second week, that is when individual will start showing signs of diffuse abdominal discomfort, abdominal swelling, delirium, confusions, and so on. Then from third week, if it's an untreated patient, third week, fourth week, that's where they can present with complications. Apart from the intestinal perforation, which can lead to emergency, we can also have internal bleeding from that. And also, it can also result to sepsis, that is septicemia. That is the whole, the bacterial-related toxins that will affect every organ in the system. And that is, it can affect any system, and that is why, starting from the brain, it can lead to meningitis. In the heart, it can lead to myocarditis, pericarditis. It can affect the lungs. It can affect the muscles. That's why, and bones. That's why we have osteomyelitis. It can affect even in men, orchitis. So there's not any part, especially in the advanced stage. It can lead to it can even, apart from the heart and whatever, the liver. That's why many of them we have what's called hepatosplenomegaly. The liver will be swollen, the spleen will be swollen, and that is one of the common presentation of typhoid fever. Thank you.
Dr. Jamil, from all that you have said and what the doctors have said right here in the studio, it is clear that typhoid should not be joked with. And of course, what already comes to mind is why, individuals who want to play with the health of, of Nigerians and, bring in all kinds of materials that are fake. And then we have people who are quacks carrying out testing for typhoid. We'll get back to you, Dr. Jamil, but let's return to the studio. And I'd like to ask Dr. Igboja. Well, just before we get to Dr. Igboja, you can send in your comments, your questions or suggestions to the number displayed on the screen. Send SMS or you can send a WhatsApp message. Please do not call. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get to Dr. Igboja. I'm a bit worried about all of this. I mean, hearing all the big names Dr. Jamil was calling and then listening to you earlier, and then he's talking about affecting every part of the body. And I listened to Dr. Ifeanyi, say that it's caused by bacteria, and that if someone cooks who has typhoid, you could transfer it. So, it can easily spread. A lot of issues, and you already talked about antibiotics being overused when you do not have it, and then eventually when you come down with it, it is untreatable. What really is the problem with our health system as regards this particular disease, in your own view? Because I tried to ask Dr. Ifeanyi about the medical council, which he said, about regulating the scientists who do the test in the first place, and then those who import the materials for the testing that are fake. So how do we get it right, really, in dealing with typhoid? Because, a lot of people's health may just be going down the drain.
Okay, I think the problem is not that much of the health system. I think it's more of our behavior. I think the public should take responsibility for this. I will explain. If you have fever and you go, like he said, to a quack, instead of going to the hospital for a test, you cannot blame the health.
But how do you ascertain a quack, for example? Because from what he has said, even in established health facilities, you still have quacks. He talked about an industrial chemist who got signed up for a medical lab scientist job.
Yeah. Well, those kinds of cases can occur, but they are not the norm. They are not common. Let's put it this way. But let me explain why I said the public should take responsibility, and why I said also that the high incidence of typhoid that we have is because of our behavior. First, let's start with ourselves. Our hygiene practices are very poor. Most people don't wash their hands. Most people don't wash their hands. If you go outside and you shake hands with Mr. A, Mr. B, and you touch this and you touch that. You don't know who touched that plate before you. And then you go home, maybe you have a small baby, you carry the baby without washing your hands, transferring whatever is in your hands to the baby, whose immunity is very low. That's point number one. Point number two, we eat things anyhow. Even in the cities, like he mentioned, if you take fruits, which we advertise that people should eat fruits, should eat vegetables, with and so on. Fruits are very good. But if you don't eat it the right way, you can get yourself into trouble. If you go to the market and you pick a mango, or you pick an apple, and you don't wash it, and you eat, some people say, I'm an African. This is not a kill African. Who told you? You should wash whatever you are going to eat. Even vegetables that you buy from the market. Some people just rinse them a little bit and they start cooking. Why don't you wash it properly? Put water in the salt in the water that you are going to use to wash your vegetables. Soak it for a few minutes. Make sure you transfer it to a cleaner water. And make sure that the vegetable is clean before you cook. But if you are going to use it for salad, you could wash it 2 more times to be sure that whatever is there is washed out. Then, the mode of cooking. Many of the foods that we eat are supposed to be well cooked. And many times they are not well cooked. And let me come back again to this issue of personal hygiene. You see a lot of people with nails. A cook, a chef, is supposed to have fingernails that are like my own. Well manicured. Not with fingers where bacteria and viruses could hide. He gave example of a cook who would spread typhoid to everybody, and it happens very frequently. Very frequently. Even in restaurants. It happens very frequently. You may not know. But the reason why I emphasize on our behavior and on hygiene is because if you look after yourself very well, you wash your clothes. You wash your clothes, your food. You make sure that your water is safe by either boiling or it is treated. And you make sure that too that you don't take contaminated things to your house. Let me give a very ignored
When you say
example.
contaminated things.
Yes, I will give a very ignored example. You see sewage water flowing on the street, which you see sometimes even in Abuja. A car drives through it. All the tires rub on that contaminated water, which could have salmonella typhi in it. The owner goes and parks the car, tells the houseboy to go and wash the car for him. You know what he does? In Nigeria, unfortunately, the first part of the car they wash is the tire. Have you ever noticed that? Who cares about the tire? No, they don't worry about that. It is not the car, not the windscreen. It is the tire that they wash. And he spends time, he enjoys himself, rubbing his hands on the tire very well, which has already carried bacteria or virus. He comes and then handles food. And then he eats. He gets typhoid. By the way, do you know that if I have typhoid, I can also transmit it to you by close contact? If I soil my clothes, for example, I have typhoid, and you and I are playing, and I have soiled clothes. What do I mean by soiled clothes? I went to the toilet. I didn't wash my hands. And you are also touching me.
I'll hug you.
And hugging me. And you carry them in your hands, and you eat. You ingest the bacteria. Let's understand the fact that if we keep ourselves clean, keep our environments clean, drink clean water, eat clean food, well-cooked food, well-processed food.
You just talked about clean
we
water
will
now.
eliminate.
You know, talking about clean water, I'm asking how many communities have clean water in Nigeria?
That's a problem. That one is a really big problem. Even here in Abuja, there are many parts of Abuja that don't have potable water. People are fetching water from the well. People are using boreholes. Boreholes are even safe or safer than open wells. And in the village, for example, if a particular well is contaminated with any bacteria at all, but since we are talking about Salmonella typhi, the cause of typhoid fever, everybody is fetching water from that well, taking it home and drink. They are exposed to the same problem.
Okay, doctor, let's look at the treatment now. Let's look at the treatment because there are a lot of complications, when it comes to treating typhoid fever. So how would you advise, health providers to manage complications and also reduce mortality rate as a result of associated with typhoid fever?
Okay, let's start with the patient first. I would advise that instead of you going to a patent medicine store for your treatment of fever, any form of fever, please go to the hospital. Instead of going to the pharmacy for a blood test, please go to the hospital.
What about primary healthcare centers? Because some people don't have hospitals.
Yes, primary healthcare centers are supposed to be well equipped and are supposed to be able to handle this type of tests. They're not that complicated. Unfortunately, some of them do not have either the correct reagent or they don't have the knowledgeable staff to do the test. And since he is talking about treatment, the person who is treating should be sure of what he is treating before he prescribes or gives drug to anybody. A suspicion is not enough as a reason why you should throw antibiotics at somebody. If somebody has fever and he goes and does this quick test and they say he has typhoid and malaria, which I already said is not true, as a health practitioner, take the one that you know is a confirmed test, which is, in this case, will be malaria. Treat it. If it is typhoid, the first few days of typhoid will not kill you. It will not. But the first few days of malaria will kill you. And in medical practice, if you have a patient that has multiple problems, we look for the one that will kill the patient first. That's our priority. That doesn't mean that the others are not important, but you have a priority here. If you don't do this first, the patient is going to die. So handle that first.
Okay.
If we have that kind of attitude, we will eliminate this indiscriminate use of antibiotics and the overprescription of drugs for typhoid when there is no typhoid.
Many thanks. Because of time, I'd like to get to Dr. Ifeanyi now. I'm asking, how can we strengthen the Medical Lab Science Council of Nigeria that you mentioned, just so that they can do their jobs effectively? Because first and foremost, if we can check the fake reagents and test kits coming into the country, we've dealt with the problem somehow. And if we can also check the quacks, get them out of business, isn't that a way forward?
Political will. Political will. The council has a superintending ministry. I'm particularly happy that the set of ministers we have now, the Honorable Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Alipate, and the Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Ishak Lakunle Salako, are square peg in square holes. It hasn't always been that way. So they are doing a lot. If you have a situation where they do not receive the support that they require, that's why people can beat the system and walk away with it. As for capacity and systems and infrastructure for validation, I can beat my chest to say that today in country, the Medical Lab Science Council of Nigeria has got that. It is the envy within the sub-region. There is no other country within the sub-region that has such capacity. So I do not see why we would have all that and yet be the lead country in the dumping of substandard equipment. Again, is that we have people who know that by training, by legislation, by mandate for the training they have, they are not supposed to have anything to do with testing of human specimen, including animal specimen, yet they want to hijack that processes. It's another problem. That is quackery. Now, but having said that, you see, the challenge about typhoid fever, it's worrisome. We're just talking about typhoid fever. There's salmonellosis, which is a different kettle. They are related. Typhoid fever is integral to salmonellosis. Now, if we want to deal with the issue of typhoid fever, we have to strengthen our laboratories, make them properly resourced, retrain our medical laboratory workers, particularly medical laboratory scientists, and see how government can reduce the cost for some of these test kits. The current government had done a lot. They gave a waiver for import for medical devices and all that. The government also provided funding to promote local production. That's quite commendable, and it is helping in some way. But the point need to be made clearly. If you are sick and you need to do a test, it must be done by a medical laboratory scientist. No matter where private or public, you have to ensure.
Dr. Ifai, we have some responses from our viewers which would like you to respond to. Some of our viewers have sent comments and questions. Let's just quickly read them out so that you can respond to some of them, and also the doctors as well. It said, "Good morning, Nigeria crew and analyst in the studio. Thank you. What does FMH and SMH do about food vendors, hygienic and water situations in Nigeria?" That one is from ATS from Uyo. Then this one says, "Good morning, sir. Please, can malaria cause stomach pain when you have malaria? That is, when you have malaria, can you have pain?" Then this one says, "Good morning. Good talk on typhoid fever. My question is, in rural area, no help for them as regards testing them for typhoid. Why don't you deploy personnel that can carry out test routine in rural areas and not urban only?" Then the one says, "Good morning, sir. My diagnosis is too costly to assess in the government hospitals, not to talk of treatment in government. Why? Is it because of the high cost of treatments in the hospitals that promote the roadside physicians?" And this one says, "Update on the ongoing..." Oh, okay. All right. I think she has some.
Yeah, there are more messages here. This one says, "Good morning, sir. I have treated malaria and typhoid through injection, but I'm still having constant headache and fever." All right, I think you need to go to the hospital. Doctors cannot diagnose over the TV. But this one says, "Good morning, uncles. I'm Aisha from Kaduna. Mine is a question, not on typhoid." Okay, well, you need to see a doctor. She says she's having difficulty raising her left arm. Maybe she needs to consult Dr. Egboja. Well, good morning. This is an interesting topic. Please, how long should the proper typhoid fever test take? And what is the process of the test? That's coming from Mr. Lloyd from Lagos State. And one last one says, "Tackling the menace of typhoid requires adequate hygiene in every part of our environs." That's coming from Ben. Also, you would respond quickly to some of those messages, but we quickly need to join our correspondent who is at the court at the moment, and that's he's there to give us an update on the High Court sitting, which will take place today. It's meant to deliver verdict on the civil suit initiated by the senator representing Kogi Central Senatorial District, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, against the Senate President. Dele Atumbi, if you can hear me, good morning to you. You're looking really good. So what do you think the verdict will be today? Good or bad?
Thank you, Irene. The truth of the matter is that the verdict today is on the matter which was instituted by Senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, against the Senate, the Clerk of the National Assembly, the Senate President, and the Chairman, House Committee on Privileges, Ethics and Rules. And what are the issues involved? The first issue is that was there a court order that was granted on 4th of March 2025, which was an interim order? Was there that court order? And was the order served on the respondents? And the other issue is that at what point did the National Assembly suspended Natasha, who used to be a member of the National Assembly before her suspension? And another issue is this, the issue of contempt, alleged contempt. So the court has several issues to determine today. You will equally recall that the judge that gave the interim order recused himself, that is Justice Obiora Ekwatu, on the 25th of March 2025 because he was accused of being biased. And if you take a look at the Nigerian Constitution, Section 4 of the Constitution establishes the National Assembly, which is the legislative arm of government. And taking a look at Section 5, it establishes the executive arm of government. And Section 6 establishes the judiciary. At what point can the judiciary dabble into the affairs of the legislative arm of government? So these are some of the issues to be discussed, to be determined by the court in this matter. And if you take a look at Section 4, subsection 8, it gave the judiciary the ability to dabble into the affairs of the National Assembly. At what point would the judiciary have access to dabble into the affairs of the National Assembly? Because if you take a look at the Senate Rules 2023, there are many things that are there. So the Senate is saying that Senator Akpoti Uduaghan was suspended based on the Senate rules. And this will equally be determined by the court. So these are some of the issues. In the process too, don't forget that the court barred all the litigants from talking to the press. At what point did any one of them spoke with the press? So this is one of the issues that the Justice Binta Nyako will determine. And at the end of the day, it is believed that judgment of verdict will be passed, and whichever way it goes, anyone that is still aggrieved has the right of appeal. Those are the things that we expect the court to determine today. And it is equally being said before the court, I'm not talking about the public opinion, that Senator Natasha allegedly did not have any issue before the court. Talking about the fact that what she brought before the court did not percolate as at the time that she came to court. And when it comes to the Senate rules too, it is said that you have to give whosoever you are taking to court 3 months pre-notice. Is a condition precedent. So the court will equally determine the condition precedent before anybody can take any member of the National Assembly to court. So today's verdict will determine many things. One, let us put it right now. One, when do you take a member of the National Assembly to court? And two, can the National Assembly suspend any of its members? Does Natasha have any right, as at this time, to have approached the court as at 4th of March 2025? So these are some of the things that the court will determine. And these are some of the things that the court will determine. And the moment it is determined by the court, it becomes a judicial precedence.
Many thanks, Dele Atumbi. Thank you very much, Delia Atunbi, for all of those insights as regards the court judgment today, or if you like, the court sitting, where verdict to be given as regards the matter between Senator Natasha and the Senate President. Thank you so much for the analysis. By the way, our judiciary correspondent Delia Atunbi, who is also a lawyer himself, of course, I'm sure you can feel that he knows all that should be at play today, and we'll be getting more information from him in the course of our bulletins, of course, at 10 a.m. and other bulletins as we have it. And of course, I'm sure Dele Atunbi will give us the final verdict when it is ready. Thank you, Dele. I would like to come back right here in the studio and continue our conversation about typhoid fever, but looks like we've completely run out of time. We may have to, talk about this again, because looking at all the issues that has been raised and the fact that, every part of the body can be affected if you have typhoid.
So maybe we just have your parting
final
shots.
Yeah, in 30 seconds.
One, typhoid is preventable and typhoid is treatable.
Typhoid is preventable and typhoid is
so once you establish that it is typhoid, the next is diagnosis. Okay. Is it really typhoid fever you have? Okay. Or you have another thing. So it's treatable, it's preventable.
It's preventable and treatable. Thank you, Dr. Ifeanyi. Let's get to Dr. Ganiyu Jamiu. Let's get your parting shots on this discussion this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to say malaria can also mimic typhoid. So the only way we can do is to carry out appropriate diagnosis. Then secondly, the way we interpret weather tests in this country, I think the medical personnel, they need to look into it. There are systematic approach. Not one-off weather test is a confirmation that an individual has typhoid. Then lastly, we need to start looking at the possibility of introducing typhoid vaccine into our routine immunization, has been done in Liberia, Malawi, to save the children. And let's even start taking care of our children who are more at risk of typhoid.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ganiyu Jamiu, for that. We should try to introduce typhoid vaccines. Oh, Dr. Eboja.
Okay. If we practice personal hygiene, environmental hygiene, safe water and food, we will eliminate most of the cases of typhoid and other diseases that we have that are waterborne or foodborne or caused by contamination of the food or water that we drink.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eboja. Wish you improve our personal hygiene.
All right, many thanks to Dr. Isaac Akuma Igboja, Public Health Specialist. Thank you for being our guest. We appreciate you. Dr. Kashmir Ifeanyi, 15th National President, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists, Fellow, West Africa Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science, and a Public Health Advocate. It was a pleasure to have you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also would like to appreciate Dr. Ganiyu Jamiu, who joined us from Lagos via Zoom, Chief Consultant Epidemiologist, Federal Ministry of Health. It was a delight to have you. Looking forward to another conversation, of course. All right, so we take a break. When we come back, we get into the second conversation. Stay with us.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is there, like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
Many thanks for remaining tuned. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, and we get into a second topic. We have right here with us in the studio for a conversation on the Methodist Church 42nd Council of Bishops. His Eminence, Dr. Oliver Ali Abba, Prelate, Methodist Church, Nigeria. Many thanks.
And in the diaspora as well. Also here is His Grace Most Reverend Dr. Michael Akewale. He is the Archbishop of Abuja Methodist. Dr. Akewale, you're welcome.
Thank you.
To Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
Okay, let's just kickstart this conversation. We're looking at the 42nd Council of Bishops in Nigeria. Tell us what is the theme of this this gathering and why?
Thank you, my dear. The theme for this council meeting says he will rise again.
He will rise again.
He will rise again, and that is taken from the Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ as recorded by St. John, chapter 11, verse 23b. So, the story there tells us about what happened in the days of Jesus, how Jesus was everywhere for everybody.
And Jesus found himself in a family, and that family was a family that decided to devote their times for Jesus. And the dangerous point of event that took place was that the only son of the family, called Lazarus, was with his two sisters, Mary and Martha. And all of a sudden, when Jesus traveled for an assignment, internship, or crusade somewhere, event of sickness came upon Lazarus, and he fell sick. A devil, we used to call devil bastard. Before the arrival of Jesus, even when Jesus was called upon, death has occurred. But Jesus said something to the two sisters. This sickness is not unto death. And even when death occurred, because Jesus is the owner of the nature, as Bible made us understand, the whole God here is holding the whole world in the hollow of his palm.
As I say, it's the resurrection and life.
Yes, and all these things. So we are made to understand that when Jesus finally came, as Bible recorded, they said he came and the story went to the family, Mary and Martha, that Jesus is already around. Is at the entrance to the city. And Martha, with her youthfulness, ran and went and met Jesus. And she said something to Jesus. She said, Uncle, if you would have been here, what happened to us wouldn't have happened. It's a sign of faith. And Jesus asked Martha, said, where is Mary? Because Mary seems to be the senior in the house. And attention of Jesus was shifted to Mary. And Martha simply said, it's at home. It's okay. When Jesus said, okay, that means he was interested in seeing Mary at that point. So the news went to Mary that Jesus is already at the city. And when the young lady called Martha appeared before her sister Mary, I began to guess that she would have said, oh, guess what? And Mary would have said, when will you be tired of cracking jokes? Your brother, the only brother we had just packed off. And it would have been enough for you to sit somewhere and mourn. But you are taking everything for play. And Martha insisted, okay, guess what? And finally, she was able to tell her sister Mary that Uncle Jesus is in town. And that sparked action in the life of Mary. And so Mary, Bible made us understand that Mary just jumped up, picked her wrappers, tied it around her, covered her head and every part of her body, jumped out. And the other women who were with her, they thought, according to the Bible record, they thought that she was going to the burial ground to weep. And I think that was the way of life of the Jewish women. Everything, they are fond of weeping or mourning. And so in life, there are times for emotional state, and there are times for prayers. And the prayer should override emotional state of every human being. And that brings about Jesus' attention. And so when finally Mary was able to reach at the corridor of Jesus, at the entrance to the city, what Martha said exactly, she repeated it. He said, my Lord, if you would have been here, what happened to us wouldn't have happened. And that means Jesus has value in their lives. And so every believer, every Nigerian, who knows that he or she is being created by God, should see God as instrument of success in his or her life. Somebody that can bring about hope. Somebody that can bring about new life. And so they quickly recognized Jesus with that. See, if we would have been here, what happened to us wouldn't have happened. And so that is why we Nigerians must be able to make sure that we have room for God in our country, Nigeria.
Many thanks, Your Eminence, for that Bible story. A very good refresher. Let's get to His Grace now. Speak to us about this week-long program. It began on Monday. Tell us, what are the key highlights, for the Methodist Church?
Well, the program really started on the 30th of June, and it's going to run through to the 7th of July. It's an annual program that all our bishops comes together, where we discuss both issues that affect the nation and issues that affect the church. Our focus will look on the growth of the church. How can we grow our church? We also look at issues that has to do with the spirituality of our members. These are the main issues. In fact, this is the 42nd council, and it's something that comes up every year where bishops all over the country. We have 129 bishops.
Okay.
And even outside the shores of this country, we have bishops we have a church, a diocese in the United States, US. So when we come together, what we focus, we look at the problems and challenges that we're having as a church and how to make sure that we provide solution to some of these problems.
What are some of the issues that you have identified, and especially concerning this nation, and how is the church handling it?
Of course, the church has always been in partnership with the government. In the case of the Methodist Church was the first church in Nigeria. We came into this country on the 24th of September, 1842, through Badagry. And when the church came, the Methodist Church has celebrated 183 years of existence in Nigeria. And when we came into this country through Badagry, we came in through, we brought three major items: education, health, and social service. In fact, the first primary school is still there in Badagry, which stands as a school of history. And everyone who is conscious of the history in Nigeria will know that even our founding fathers, our political fathers, like Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, they are product of the Methodist school. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was a product of a Methodist Boys High School. And Chief Obafemi Awolowo is a product of Wesley College, Elekuro. And these are all Methodist institutions. So when we come together, we focus on issues that has to do with the nation. Like currently, we know that there is hunger in the land. We cannot shy away from that. And we also look at the issue of insecurity, which is very prevalent in Nigeria today. And at the end of the day, we come up with a communique telling the government that this is our own suggestion and the way to move the country forward.
Many thanks, His Grace. Let's get to Your Eminence. We need to wrap up the conversation because of time. But this is a fantastic thing for bishops to come together once every year. But I would like you to speak to the leadership, because I do not know if as bishops you find time to speak to those in authority, in government, political space now. But this is a big avenue for you to speak to our leaders. What message do you think they need to hear at this point in time?
Thank you, my dear sister. Well, we know that church is the voice of the voiceless. We are to represent our people, because the people that are in the society, they all are in our churches, and some are in another denomination, or some are in another religion. But as per our stand as a church, we believe strongly that Methodist Church Nigeria, the premier church, has to speak out to the government about what it has seen so far, because we are among our people and our people are among us. They are in our church. One, we have to talk about the issue of corruption. The issue of corruption that is ravaging the society. I would have loved it, in essence, that if you apply one system, and if that system does not work, then we change to plan B. that will bring about the dividend of democracy to our people. Seriously, every new government, our people keep on hoping for the best. And thank God that this regime we find ourselves in is a regime that the leader, our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is someone that knows much about this country. And our hope have been that he has to fix it. He has to fix it properly because there is no time. Because Nigeria is a serious country, a nation that has human population, that has value in the field of world economy. And for that simple reason, we have everything to better the society called Nigeria. And so every one of us has to fight this devil called corruption. We have to face it squarely and make sure that everything about this fight is brought logically to a conclusive point. And I strongly believe that this fight is not one man's fight. It's a combined attack that has to be between the leaders and the subjects. So as a nation called Nigeria, and we are the citizenry, what we need to do is to, first of all, have the love for this country. We must love our country, Nigeria. On that platform, we will be able to come out and work as a team. Let all hands be on deck. And I want to believe that the leadership must not close its eyes against the truth of saying corruption is brought to a minimum level. No, corruption is at every level of our society. Even take for instance, when you go to Market Square, an average mother in the market, if you want to price ordinary gari in the market, they will just tell you, don't you know dollar has increased? What brought dollar to gari matter? Gari that we got from the rural, from one corner of the village, we're now talking about. And they will tell you that because the upper leadership, they are not helping matters. So it is not there that will fix it.
So it's a chain reaction.
Yeah, seriously.
All right.
So in terms of corruption, that is we are in this sitting, this conference, this council meeting.
Okay.
We are looking at it seriously.
Some of the issues that you are addressing at the council.
So that we can better this society called Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much, His Eminence. Dr. Akiwale, as we begin to wind up this conversation, in what other areas is the church impacting positively in this nation?
Well, like I said, when it comes to the issue of education, the church has been seriously involved in that. And we also have what we call the Shunammite Initiative, where we help the less privileged. We go all out to make sure that we help the less privileged. We even give scholarship to indigenous children who have special talent. And for your information, we also have schools for the deaf, for the dumb. We have, these are schools which is owned by the Methodist Church. And we have health centers as well, even in Benue State, where we provide medical facilities to some of the less privileged. And we have also been helping those who are in IDP.
Sorry, sir. I just want to find out because recently we had a discussion on education, and some of the things that were noted was that the standard in some of these missionary schools are beginning to drop. So what is the church doing to at least maintain and sustain the standard of education in your schools?
We have tried to sustain the tempo. If you look at most of the early product of the missionaries, they are very, very versatile, very sound. And these are people who sat on hard bench and acquired education. Not only did the school pass through them, they also passed through the school. And they can defend their certificate wherever they are, because we believe in qualitative education. And the type of education that the missionary produced was holistic.
It's a type of education that talks about, apart from cognitive development, it also talks about character. Because education without character, it's of no value. And we go all out to produce what we call complete personality. And that is why you'll discover that the product of the early missionaries, you can never find them getting involved in corruption. Because the most important thing they value is their name. They value their name, they value the name of the family. It's of recent that because education has been bastardized, and the issue of character, there is nobody give credence to such issues any longer. And that is why we have a society that has become so filled with corruption, people of questionable character,
Thank
who
you.
are even occupying a sensitive position, even in government, which is rather unfortunate.
All right, we hope we can change all of that. Your Eminence, we need to wrap up now, but in 1 minute, I'd like you to speak to Nigerians. I mean, I'm sure there's something that the church expects Nigerians to do just so we can have a better nation.
Thank you. Fellow Nigerians, home and abroad, I sincerely want to thank God for the privilege He has given to us to be Nigerians. And Nigerian society is loved by God Himself, to a point that wherever you go, there must be one natural resources deposited in the soil for a particular area, so that we do not lack. And that means the thought of God towards us is not of evil, but of good, as Nigerians. So what I want Nigerians to do is to join hands together to build this government, to work with this government. Let our hands be on deck so that we have a better place for ourselves. Because argument cannot give us anything. Complaint cannot give us anything. And this is this country we can call our own. If you don't come together to fix it, nobody will fix it for us. And after that, if you fail to fix it and anything evil happens, no any other country in West Africa or in Africa that can contain us. So that is why...
If we don't fix it, nobody will fix it for us. So we just draw the
Many
curtain there.
thanks.
It's evidence.
A fantastic point. The thought of God towards Nigeria is good. I think that's a great message for every Nigerian to think good and do good. Many thanks, His Eminence Dr. Oliver Abba, Prelate, Methodist Church, Nigeria. It was a pleasure to have you in our studios. Wish you all the best in your gathering of Archbishops. And then, of course, His Grace Most Reverend Dr. Michael Akinwale, Archbishop of Abuja. Thank you so much. All the best in your 42nd edition, and we wish the church the very best.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and that solemn note, we thank you for being a part of Good Morning Nigeria this very Good Friday. I'm Yanwe John. Do good and remain tuned to the NTA.
And I'm Ademola Adeyedu. Have a lovely weekend.